What's happening, racing fans? Welcome back to the channel. Brought to you in association with betting.co.uk. I'm your host, Ginger Joe, and I'm back again with my Aintree Day 1 selections for you to take a look at. And I've actually got a lucky 15 for Day 1 of the Aintree Festival. But moving on to Day 2 and Day 3, I will have a more widespread selection list for you to take a look at. And of course, I'll have my runner-by-runner guide for the Grand National live on betting.co.uk. And if you are new to my channel, please do hit the subscribe button below this video. It's completely free to do so, and it helps me out a great deal as well. And you generally get a good bit of karma for clicking that button too. But I'm going to go straight on to the action now. As I said, I've got 4 selections for you to take a look at on Day 1. I'm just going to be bringing these to you as a bit of a quick fire video. I do want to get myself out to watch the Real Madrid-Chelsea game this evening too. But we're going to start off by taking a look at the 145, where I don't actually have a selection, but a few points just to mention here. You've got Stage Star versus Banbridge versus San War. 13-8, 13-8 and 5-2 is too difficult to figure out for me to get stuck into any of those 3. And apart from actually Risk Bell, who ran at Cheltenham, there's been no other horses that have come out of that race and managed to win at Fairy House. So it could just be worth taking a bit of a look at a fresher angle here. The reason I'm actually mentioning the 145 at all is because if you can head over on Twitter and follow Deck from the USO podcast, he did make a very, very good point about Visionarian, who he was trying to actually back at 40 to 1 at the beginning of the week. He then opened up again at 20 to 1, now just into 14 to 1. He was definitely right on what he said as well. He's a much improved chaser. He's only got 2 lengths to find with Samoa as well. But Visionary is definitely one that's improving and comes into this race completely fresh, which is definitely an angle I'm looking at for this week. And I'm not taking the credit for this one, but I'm probably going to have a small squeak at 14 to 1 if I can still get that price first thing in the morning. But it's not one of my selections, but definitely worth a mention for Deck there for the USO podcast. Quite a little bit of a dark horse coming into the opener. But moving on to the 220, where I will have my first selection. Zenta runs for Willie Mullins here at 11-8. It's definitely a nice 4-year-old filly, and she was 3rd in the Triumph at Cheltenham. But I just don't fancy her at all here, and I'm not totally sure why, other than the fact that it could turn out to be quite a messy race. Gary Moore, though, he's double-handed in this field. He's got 2 very good runners here as well, and the stable are absolutely flying at the moment. I think they've had about 13 winners from their last 17 runners. They run Bo Zenith and Perseus Way. And Perseus Way is definitely going to do justice for Gary Moore sooner or later. He looked like he was actually going to get the better of Nusret last time before hitting that final hurdle really, really hard. And I think he's been a little bit unlucky. But sooner or later, he is going to break that duck and get himself a win in one of these races. He also runs Bo Zenith, of course, who managed to beat Blood Destiny. But again, a lack of deep experience worries me for Bo Zenith. But I do think he's going to be a very good horse in time. But the one I'm going to side with here is Scriptwriter, who's following the same path as my beloved Night Salute after Night Salute bolted up to win the Adonis last year and then came here to dead heat with Pied Piper. Now, Scriptwriter did actually run in the Adonis, but he definitely bombed out that day with no real excuse, potentially other than the ground. But this will definitely be much more his bag, and I'm looking for horses that have got a wicked turn of foot at Aintree. It definitely suits the quicker horses with that turn of foot round here, and he comes in here fresh as well. The flat track's definitely going to suit him, and they actually purchased him from Ballydor, who brings the group form into this race by just finishing 5 lengths behind Caribus on the flat. Scriptwriter is a very, very good horse, and he's going to be fully geared up for this race. At 8 to 1, I think he is definitely worth popping in for the first selection for the lucky 15. Then in the 255, got the Aintree Bowl over 3 mile 1 furlongs. And of course, we've got Brave Man's Game has just been taken out of the field, which is a little bit unfortunate. But if we have a look through, we've got Shishkin, who is a bit of an unknown at this trip, but I do think he is going to run well. Probably still making some mistakes the whole way around, but I do think he will go close. Aplutard, I'd love to see him back to his best, and he would be the horse to beat if that was the case. A Hoist in Your Fall in the Gold Cup, but has won here twice at Aintree, loves this track, sort of going back to his home ground. You know it suits him really well and surely going to go pretty well again. But the horse for me in here is going to be Conflated. I think he's the one to beat in this race without a doubt. He was 3rd in the Gold Cup and he had plenty of errors to get through that day. Plenty of trouble in running, but he stayed really well, showed a wicked turn of foot. And he was also 2nd in this race last year by just a length to Clan de Zobo. And I think he comes in here turning up like a really, really hard horse to beat. A few of the others I've got a few question marks around, so I think Conflated is the one to side with at about 5 to 1 at the moment, which I think is a very fair price. If all of these horses turn up, we're going to be absolutely geared up for a beauty. I can't wait to see how this one unfolds. But Conflated, to me, I think gets the job done here at Aintree. I think he's going to really enjoy it here. I think it's going to be a really good week for Gordon Elliott as well. I really fancy Absolute Notions later on in the week too. In the Aintree hurdle, of course, this should go to Constitution Hill, but it's not a race where I'm going to obviously have a selection in. And similarly in the 440, I don't fancy anything either. But prior to that, we've got the Fox Hunters in the 405. A race where I don't usually have a strong fancy, but I'm really sweet on one here. And if you're in my free Discord group chat using the link in the description below, I did actually put this horse up at 16 to 1. He's already been backed into 8 to 1. It's a horse called It's on the Line for Emmett Mullins and Derek O'Connor. 1-2 point to point already this term in really good fashion. And then ran an absolute blinder at Cheltenham to finish just a length and a half behind the winner, coming off the pace, showing a really good turn of foot. I imagine Aintree is going to suit him again a lot more with that turn of foot. He's not too dissimilar to a Noble Yates sort of horse. I've got a feeling Emmett Mullins is finding these horses that have got a turn of foot. He's really gearing them up tactically, and it's making them very, very effective. I think he's going to come here with a really good chance, and I think his form is probably as good as anything on offer at the moment in the books. Okay, he was 16 to 1. He is now 8 to 1, which is a little bit shorter, but I think he is the one that's going to take all of the beating here. They keep the cheap pieces on for him, which clearly worked out very well for him, and that turn of foot, I think, is really, really effective here at Aintree. So at 8 to 1 currently, I think It's on the Line is going to take all of the beating. As I mentioned in the 440, I don't fancy anything in the race. Perhaps the favourite here for Lucinda Russell, but there's a lot of exposed horses and it's not really a race for me to get stuck into. But then in the final race, Willie Mullins runs Jodie Coeur Alain at 4 to 1, which I actually think is a really big price for this horse. She's a really nice filly, and she actually ran very, very well in her only start in France to date. Again, showing a really nice turn of foot despite some early on mistakes. I think she as well is going to be really well suited to this race, and she did actually have the option to run at Cheltenham, but Willie's decided to keep her aside for this race, which to me honest tells me quite a lot about her ability already. We don't have a lot to go on really based on form, but the form has been boosted from what she put up in France. The winner has gone out and won twice since, and a few horses in behind have gone up and done the job as well. Not too much to go on in this race. She won't have to be a world beater to get the job done, but a 4 to 1, I just think that's too big to ignore. And she's probably going to be well supported on the day. And she will make my 4th selection of day 1's Lucky 15. So we've got Scriptwriter. Who else to be put up? Sorry. Yep, we've got Scriptwriter, Conflated, It's on the Line, and Jodie Coeur Alain are the 4 selections for day 1. Now, as I said, it's only quick fire today, but I have a longer recap for day 2 and 3. Hopefully we can have a few nice winners, and drop me a comment below who you think is going to be winning at Aintree and what your angles are you're taking as well towards this after the Cheltenham Festival. I'll pop all my selections in the description below, and I'll look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.